BioPatrika, your very own online science communication, brings science closer to you in so many ways. Today, SciConnect by BioPatrika welcomes all science enthusiasts to our very first entrepreneurial podcast. I, Charu Gupta, and my co-host Nikhil Kumar Tulsian have roped in the modern Kiran Majumdar-Shaw to talk about her startup journey.
Thank you, Charu, for the kind words. It's an honor for me to introduce my friend and colleague, Dr. Viveka Kalidasan. She has pursued her PhD in Material Sciences and Engineering from ECE at National University of Singapore. So let's hear from herself. Viveka, can you enlighten us on your journey?
Okay. First of all, thank you so much, Charu and Nikhil. And Charu, I think that was okay, too much. I didn't know how to react to that, but thank you. I'm honored to be here talking with the both of you. Okay. And just quickly, I'm Viveka. I'm originally from India, but I've been living in Singapore for the past decade now. As Nikhil mentioned, I came here to do my PhD in material science and engineering. And then I shifted fields to work on wireless bioelectronics. And now I'm completely into translation and tech commercialization. So that's my very quick professional overview. And I also have tried to and exited a few tech startups. And I'm also having a mentorship related startup called Edify. So that's all about me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is so interesting. You've done so much in such a short amount of time. Viveka, when did you decide that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Oh yeah, sure. That's a question that I often get because all the friends, all the people that are very close to me, they always know that I want to be an entrepreneur, even when the jargons were not there. I remember when I was in the 8th grade, I was telling my father that I'll one day have my own business, like in those days, right? So I guess that might be because psychologically, my parents are doctors. We have our own nursing home back in India. So we took a lot of holidays. So growing up, I thought if you are your own boss, you can be the key decision maker. So to be really very honest, that was the starting point. The reason is not exactly the same anymore, but still I like being the decision maker. I like being responsible for, the upliftment or the life of others. So it's just that I like being that. And I also realized that since I've been in a very research and academic space for a long time, being a deep tech founder, being a woman deep tech founder is something that's really very close to my heart. So yeah, that's the reason why I am in the space consistently, so to say.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds really interesting to have a childhood goal and you worked so hard that in the next few years, you've been able to accomplish it.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that. Yeah.
Truly inspiring, Viveka.
Thanks, Nikhil.
So you mentioned about your tech startup called WiseQ.
Right.
Yeah. Can you share more on its origin, how it name from, and what does it do?
Sure. So WISE, W-I-S-E, so W and S capital. So it's a wireless sensing. It's an acronym for wireless sensing. So as I mentioned, though my PhD is in material science and engineering, I'm a very interdisciplinary person. So for my postdoctoral research, I was hired by the wireless bioelectronics lab because they were looking for a person with biomaterial background. But then I ended up building a wireless sensing platform technology that can detect post-operative complications in a real-time manner. For example, let's say a patient is being discharged and he or she has abdominal surgery that was performed on the person, right? So if there is a complication that happens within the body, the patient will only come to know about it when the complications arise, like when the symptoms appear. But my technology can capture it in a real-time manner. And the cue there is because it just gives a clue that something is wrong with inside the body so that the patient can be rushed back to the hospital to get the corrective surgery done, or even a simple antibiotic thing, don't have to even go for corrective surgery. So it's WiseQ because it's a wireless sensing technology that can give you clues regarding what's wrong. And for this technology, it's my 4 years of postdoctoral work, so I have a patent on it. And I would say, rather than calling I am the innovator and developer of the technology, I should say WISE is the one which developed me as a person. I really tell this to everyone. For all the laurels that I've got, awards that I've got, is because I was working for WISE, with WISE. Yeah, so yeah, it has been a very pleasurable journey for me with WISE. Yeah.
That is so beautifully said. That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
True wise words.
Okay, that was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, Viveka, I mean, it's a little bit obvious that, you need monitoring with the post-surgical patients, and you need to see if they are undergoing any complications. Particularly, most post-surgical patients often come back with complaints of hospital given infections like pneumonia.
Right.
And many graft versus host disease in case of transplantations. And these are things which need to be monitored so carefully. I mean, although it's an obvious necessity, how were you new to the market, and why do you think that these things were not done before? Or if they were done before, then how is WISE better and a more suited platform?
Right. So, okay. I'll kind of give a quick overview of how translation happens from a very academic and research space into trying to bring a technology, right? I think that would be more relevant for the audience. So as I mentioned, my background is in material science. So the story is that when I joined the wireless bioelectronics group, I came up with conductive surgical sutures, which are, surgical sutures which are used to stitch when there's a surgery and all that, right? So I made it conductive because it was going to act as a antenna, and we had electronic devices on board which will detect when there is a complication. So this is what my research is. So incidentally, we had I was telling Nikhil, like a week ago, it got accepted in Nature Biomedical Engineering, but this is research. Right. But this is not something, thank you. This is not something that is commercially viable or translatable, because the conductive medical sutures, they are being coated with some polymers, PDOT it is called, which is not FDA approved. So the thinking is that if a material that which goes into making of the technology itself is not FDA approved, how will I get FDA approval for the technology, right? So your thinking has to be like, what was the purpose of the suture? To act as an antenna. So instead of using these complicated stuffs, you can just put medical grade copper antenna on either side with electronics on board. So, and then that miniaturizes the device significantly. It can be attached at the site of surgery within the body. And we also give a handheld device which can be used to power as well as communicate with the little chip that goes within the body. So when I had this technology, the very key point in translation when it comes to medical devices is you need to talk to a lot of clinicians to understand what problem they have and how are they solving it currently, right? So post-operative complications is real. I mean, I hear it from my own parents and all the other doctors. So it's not like just hearing it from one clinician, right? We see that it is real. And currently what happens is when the symptoms arise, let's say after 7 days after the complication itself, the patient is rushed back and they do CT imaging, they do all the blood test and all that. So there is a common clinical practice, which is there. This is what is happening. But then we are here to say that you can save those 7 days. You can save those 7 days, which might lead, for the complication to become more fatal. So it's like your complication is happening right now. The infection is happening right now. The bleeding is happening right now. And I'm going to alert. So that's why I call it Q, because I'm not going to tell what went wrong inside. I can't tell really, but I know that something is wrong. So maybe you should go now. Yeah. So what could have been a corrective surgery and, $50,000 more of an economic burden on the patient, we are saving all of that because we are trying to capture this in a real time. So maybe an antibiotic dose is enough, so it's like that. So when I spoke to a lot of clinicians and I won this award where the audience were clinicians, the judges were clinicians. So I pitched in front of them. So that was for me, like in one go, like 500 clinicians telling that, yes, you are trying to address a good need. So there was an unmet clinical need and we give a proper value proposition. So that's the story, but we don't just stop by talking to clinicians. We talk to patients, we talk to caregivers, we talk to medical device distributors. Do they want to have this device on board? I mean, why would they want to have such a device on board? And we also talk to big medical giants like Medtronic and Johnson & Johnson, whether they want to partner with us to develop the technology. So yeah, that's the story. And that I think that's the way technology has to be productized from lab to market. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, when I heard you talking, I got goosebumps, because as someone who's worked in a translational lab, we had patients in clinical trials,
Right.
and they would get medicines and they would have all of these surgeries in between. I'm in hematology, so we had bone marrow transplantation patients,
Right.
and then they would come back with GVHD, and or they would get pneumonia, which is quite frequent, and it would be so good to have them on hand, because I mean, these clinical trials are also so important to
Right.
give us an idea of how this drug will work and will help a large number of people. So
Right.
I think it is so inspiring that, I mean, you took something, and as you said, there was already a program in place on how to manage these post-surgical complications, and you've decided to make it so much easier and so much more accurate, and you've given the power back in the patient's hands and in the doctor's hands, and it's not up to uncertainty now.
Oh yeah, sure. Thanks for saying that. So that I always believe in patient-centric technology. So giving the power back to the patient. So yeah, that's right.
Yes, truly fantastic. And the insights of targeting a patient even after the surgery, before any complications arise, is very important in the current world.
Right.
So is this the device launched, and what's the status? So like, how do people have an access to it?
Okay, so as you can, it's very obvious it's a class 3 medical device because it's an invasive implantable device, right? So the road to commercialization is really very long. So it's still in the research and development and translation stage within the academic ecosystem. So that's the status of it. But if everything goes fine, a product of this stature can be launched. It will see the light of the market maybe in a decade or so, but that's usually the runway for a class 3 medical devices. Since VICE is also one, so the status is still within the academic ecosystem. Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So a true entrepreneur.
I don't know. Thank you.
And
nice to hear that.
And in a very important field of medical devices.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that I agree.
Yeah. So Viveka, you also told us that you went to this meeting with several clinicians being the audience and the judges, and you got feedback. And I'm assuming that you also got some funding with it. I mean, I read on your LinkedIn profile that you've had some funding. And also for our listeners, Viveka has an excellent YouTube video on WiseQ and its uses. So please go check it out. Viveka, my question is that, so, you know, several of these, several people now are recognizing that there is so much that they can contribute to. So many people like you want to become an entrepreneur and want to have their own startups. So what are your views on these budding startups, incubation cells?
Yeah. So I myself have been on the receiving end of, you know, all these accelerator programs and incubator programs. So I think I'm okay. The entire landscape is like this. Traditionally, if you want to have a business, you should have a rich daddy, or you should, you know, have a huge investment for a family background. But these days, I think more and more people are encouraged to take up entrepreneurship because there's more easier access to money in terms of investor money, angel investors. So if you have an idea, people are even ready to invest on just an idea. They don't even look for wait for a product to be there in place, right? So I think the ecosystem is very much nurturing, and this is the time for people with disruptive ideas, so to say, to enter into the field. And this is the time for entrepreneurship, truly. Even if you don't have a rich daddy, even you don't come from a business background, this is the time. If you have a brilliant idea and if you're able to find co-founders or people to support you in your journey, then I think there are people who want to invest in your idea, and to see the product, see the light of the market.
Yes, so yes, there are many accelerator programs. For example, the NUS Graduate Research Innovation Program.
That's right.
And there are other programs which facilitate startups. For example, at least in Singapore, there is or EF Entrepreneur Force is worldwide, and Singapore also has ESCO Ventures. So amazing.
Sorry?
Should we all move to Singapore?
Oh yeah, Singapore is extremely supportive of entrepreneurs. You know, they, how can I say, even I myself was shortlisted for Entrepreneur First twice, but for me, I didn't need that kind of a training because I've gone through similar programs before. But yeah, it doesn't even care whether you're a foreigner or not, as long as you have a good idea, as long as you have the right partners to do this. Singapore is extremely supportive. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, with a career in biotech, and you mentioned your personal journey of your parents being doctors, and then you thought of it to have your own business.
Right.
Were there any key factors, professionally or personally, that inspired you to join biotech or be an entrepreneur?
Right. Yeah, being an entrepreneur, as I said, that's just the way I grew up. So that's why I want to be an entrepreneur, to be my own decision maker, to take my own holiday. Yeah, but for biotech itself, yeah, since my parents were doctors, I was very much interested in biology from school. I was one of the brightest students. So, but I thought if not medicine, I just want to do anything related to biotechnology. So then I did my undergrad in biotechnology, because at that time, so one thing about my parents is they always let us do whatever we want to do. My sister is a fashion designer, and she also submitted her thesis in entirely different field, cultural studies. So it's like they never forced us to, you should become a doctor to take care of the nursing home, right? So at that point, I was interested in biotechnology. So I did my undergrad in biotechnology. But in the third year of biotechnology, there was one course on nanotechnology. So I became interested in nanotechnology. So I wanted to do a master's in medical nanotechnology. So that's the story. Whatever excites me at that point, I just keep pursuing. And fortunately, whatever excites me at that point is one of the up and coming and booming field. It always becomes that, So yeah, I'm happy to be in the up and coming and where most of the fundings are being channeled into kind of a field at every phase of my life. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The pace in the world is changing very fast,
Right.
and medical devices are booming a lot because of the development in various technology
Right.
and people like you coming up with new ideas for medical devices. So nanotheranostics and nanotherapeutics obviously are the new buzzword.
Right.
So talking about your inspiration and the personal mentorship you have seen,
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
there is also a mentorship program started by you
Right.
called Edify.
Right.
So how was that experience?
Okay, so I started Edify after my PhD in 2016. At that time, I called it Avant-Garde Initiative. Such a complicated name, people don't understand what even it means. Yeah, so but that time after my PhD, as I mentioned, I always want to be an entrepreneur, and I was honestly technology agnostic. I didn't really care which kind of field that I was going to be in. So at that point, I wanted to be a social entrepreneur, and I wanted to do something in experiential education. So I went to the Scandinavian region, because they do a lot of experiential education where they bring the kids to nature and help them learn from them.
True.
Yeah, after like 1.5 months in Scandinavia, Sweden, Norway, and all that, I came back to India, and then I tried to do that, and then I kind of like, okay, maybe this is not what I want to do. Let me go back to science, and then I joined the wireless bioelectronics group in NUS. So Avant-Garde Initiatives was started in 2016. That's like the history of it, right? But later I pivoted. I saw the need for mentorship, because as I went deeper into technology commercialization and translation, mentors became a very integral part of my journey. So that's when I realized that all of us need a mentor. Before this translation journey, my parents have always been my mentor, and that's where I took. After a point, I saw that your professors become your mentors, or sometimes the clinicians that I spoke to, they became the mentors. And I felt that every person needs a mentor in their journey. It doesn't matter which phase of life they are in. That's when I started Edify. Edify simply means uplift. So where we are trying to reconceive mentorship, it could be anything from one-on-one mentorship to running workshops. Just to give you a very quick example, I matched mentees from India, like who are sophomore year students or final year students, right? Them with a mentor from NUS Business School and alumni of NUS Business School, one-on-one matching. So the KPIs, the key outcomes that we expected from them was to all of them should have at the end of the 3 months one-on-one sessions with their mentor, a very good LinkedIn profile, a very good resume, and they should also be able to pitch themselves or speak about themselves when, in an interview setting. So that was the 3 outcomes that was expected. And then I felt that these kids, they did really phenomenally well, and connecting them to, alumni from NUS Business School, they come up with their huge global network, right? So I know what few of my mentees are now in Johns Hopkins, and a few are in the Taiwan National University doing their PhD. So these are people who didn't even have a resume in the first place. So I'm very happy to have touched people's lives in a way that I believe is more impactful. So that's why I started Edify, and this is something that I do on a when I'm free kind of a basis. It's not my everyday job, but something or other happens in the Edify space if you can follow my LinkedIn page on Edify. So yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah. That's
It's
the story.
truly
Yeah.
inspiring, Viveka. Yes, I had followed your mentorship one-on-one program.
Oh,
One
thank
of my
you.
friends, Marcel,
Oh yeah,
he was
Marcel.
your
Yeah. Yeah.
co-host,
Yeah.
and it was quite fascinating to hear from him.
Right.
And I'm sure many of the mentors and mentees, both who have passed through the experience, must be had a great experience and must be in a good space now.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is just such a beautiful opportunity that you have offered to all the newcomers. And well, I also wanted to share that BioPatrika, at BioPatrika also we have a mentorship program. It's the BioPatrika Industry Mentorship Program.
That's
And our aim as well is to provide the right guidance in people's careers at all stages. And we connect several mentors all over the world to mentees, because the world is so global now. And as you mentioned, people from one place may be networking with another and working well together so well. And we certainly hope that you will also consider giving us some of your time as a mentor with our BIMP, which is the BioPatrika Industry Mentorship Program.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, what I really wanted to stress on with what you said, and I think it's such an important thing, is networking.
Yeah, right.
And is there like a very quick networking advice that you have? Like how, if you're not involved in such a program, if you don't have someone holding your hand, how do you start?
All right. Yeah, right. Okay. How do I start from ground zero, right? So to start, I have been in such situation as well before, right? So to start from ground zero, the most important thing that you should have is passion. So when I started in 2016, avant-garde initiatives, there was no precedent for me or predecessor who can, tell me, like, why would someone who has a PhD in material science and engineering suddenly wants to do experiential education, right? So when I wrote to all the schools in Scandinavia, like it was like ghost emails that I sent them, most of them replied to me, this is the first time that they're hearing from a foreigner. Like no one even wrote to them. No one even knew such schools existed. For me, it's about knocking the doors. If you do not knock, it would never be open. So you need to ask. But before you ask, you need to have the passion. So that is that is when you don't have anyone at all, right? So, but yeah, in the journey, the people that you meet, all the wonderful men that I met during my time in Scandinavia, they're very good mentors too. Now, like I can, if I want to have something in experiential education or anything related to pedagogy, those are the guys that I go to. So it's like you make those connections and you retain those connections, and I believe I'm good in doing that. And yeah, Charu, also just to say that I'd be really very happy to be a mentor on board for BioPatrika, because I'm also a mentor on board to UN Women Care Accelerator, Seeds, all the very, very big mentoring programs, mostly startup focused. I mentor a lot of startups in that way. But yes, I think this would be exciting. I would be happy to be on board. Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, as you mentioned, you are on the UN mentor board and you have Edify, of course. But, in general, what happens is that sometimes we are a little bit afraid of reaching out to such big names. And BioPatrika in general it's community driven.
Right.
And from my experience, I mean, there are several other communications also. There are several other ways of communicating with other scientists. But I mean, with BioPatrika, I personally felt very comfortable because it wasn't something which was too overpowering for me. So I feel that our mentees will definitely benefit from your experience. I mean, throughout our talk today, you have just been so inspirational.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and I also agree with you. A mentor has to be accessible, first of all. Yeah, so the accessibility of the mentor is one important thing. So we try to be as grounded as possible. We do not try to be, mentor should not be judgmental, should not come up with that huge thing, behind them. So I totally agree with whatever you say. In that way, kudos to BioPatrika. Yeah, it's a phenomenal job that you guys are doing in this space. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Viveka. Yes, we've spoken quite a bit on mentorship, education, entrepreneurship, and knowing you like 3 E's: education, entrepreneurship, and empowerment.
Right.
So what do you aspire to be?
Oh yeah, okay, you're very right. You said I believe in 3 E's, right? Education first, because my family was traditionally pushing education. It's like it was not imposing education, but the need for education, more so importantly for women to be empowered. So education and empowerment comes hand in hand for me, and entrepreneurship, because I'm personally a very entrepreneurial person. So these are the 3 E's that I believe in. And for me, I aspire to be a woman who inspires every person. Earlier, I was thinking a woman who inspires many girls. Then I thought, like, no, I have to be a woman. A man can inspire a woman. So why can't a woman inspire a man, right? So a woman who inspires every person out there to pursue STEM. It's not that I'm not I don't like arts and science or literature. My very own sister, she is a award-winning fashion designer, and then she has a PhD in cultural studies. So education is good, but I have a soft corner for STEM education, because traditionally STEM education is very lean for women. More and more girls have to take up STEM. Biology is something that girls take up to, let's say, undergradish. After that, they will slowly stop. And then I see among my friends also, the girls also do masters and sometimes even PhD, because when their parents, it's only for an Indian context, okay, well, their parents are trying to find a guy for them. That's when they try to study, go do PhD or whatever. So I don't want it to be that way. I want people to take STEM education seriously, because STEM education can help you develop technologies that can empower lives. And I don't just want to just develop technologies, have so many patents, under my name. I want to convert these technologies into ventures that can truly influence and impact lives. So for this, I think it's a very teamwork. So I need more and more people into STEM so that we can do it as a teamwork, right? So that's what I aspire to be.
Exactly. So
yeah.
there are not, although it's an increasing number of women increasing in STEM, but it needs more.
Right.
So do you have any few words to the women, our women listeners specifically, and how some inspirational words?
Oh yeah, sure. Actually, I consciously try to make myself sound like I'm not like a only women driven thing, but then I end up being talking for women. Anyways, for the women out there, for the girls out there, I think firstly, we all have to dream, because I had a dream. And fortunately, I had parents who supported my dream. And even if you do not have that within your family ecosystem or within your professional ecosystem, as long as you have the passion, you will find right mentors on the way. If you do not find anyone, we have Edify for you, we have BioPatrika for you. So first, have a dream and try to pursue the dream. Yeah, that's what, most of the girls do not even have the luxury to dream. They don't even know that they can have a dream. They can dream, right? So yeah, we should all dream. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure with this Sai Connect podcast, and many of our listeners will get inspired to pursue education, higher education, and many more entrepreneurs to be in.
Right. I hope so too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Viveka, entrepreneur Viveka, for taking out time and sharing your kind words with all of us. And I'm sure our listeners all across the world would be quite happy. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of bombardment in your email and LinkedIn profile with multiple questions.
I'd love to, be connected with more people and help people in any way possible. Yeah, thank you.
Spoken like a true mentor, Viveka.
Oh, thanks.
accessible
Charu.
mentor.
All I have to say is wow.
Oh,
I mean,
thanks,
I am
Charu. You're so good.
Exactly.
speechless at your wealth of information
Mhm.
that you have given to us today and your experience. And I'm so motivated myself to start on the next big idea.
Okay, great.
And,
Yeah.
so thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak with you today.
Yeah,
And this has been such a wonderful event. I do want to mention that since this is a recorded event, as Nikhil mentioned, several of our listeners will have questions, men and women. We are all inspired by
Yes.
it. So,
Okay, great.
can
Yeah.
they contact you?
Absolutely. Please feel free to share my LinkedIn page and my email ID with the audience out there, listeners and viewers. So thank you so much. Yes, thanks
Yeah.
for having. The pleasure is mine, really, truly.
Yes.
So thank you so very much. We will have Viveka's email address, LinkedIn profile linked with this podcast for all our listeners. And please, to all our listeners and to Viveka, please do share your feedback with us on this podcast brought to you by PsyConnect on our contact page at on the BioPatrika website, and our email is biopatrika.in@gmail.com. And now we take your leave and hope that you will tune in again for our next interview soon.
Yeah, sure. You can always stay connected. Thank you so much for having me. Good day to you, Charu and Nikhil, and a wonderful job by BioPatrika team to connect scientists all over the world like us. Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much,
Okay,
Viveka, for speaking to us. And I'm sure, as Charu mentioned, it was wealth information and simply wow.
Thanks, Nikhil. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Thanks,
should.
Viveka, and thanks, Charu.
Bye.